Aloha and welcome to Spirit Chat Radio. Today I want to cover a topic that I don't think that a lot of people necessarily think about when they are deciding to
go on a spiritual journey, or they're deciding to discover more about the spiritual self, their spiritual body, what this spiritual thing is all about. I get a lot of emails and I get a lot of messages of people who are new to their journey. But I've been talking to people recently who are also more advanced in their journey. And I learned something. Something came to light, and I kind of had an aha moment and thought, I bet a lot of other people are kind of really not doing this same thing, which is why I wanted to do a podcast on it. And so today's podcast is going to be on defining your spiritual goals. The reason I decided to come up with this podcast is, like I said, I've been talking to some people who were, I would say, they were further into their spiritual journey. They weren't necessarily advanced, but I've been talking to people who were further in, and I started realizing they didn't have any destination with developing their spirituality or becoming more in tune with their spiritual body and discovering more about the spiritual realm. They were fascinated by the subject and they moved towards it, started trying to learn about it, maybe starting to try to develop their own gifts and whatnot. And they didn't have a destination. And if you don't have a destination, you go in circles, basically. You really do. You kind of wander around in circles. You don't know where you're going. You're absorbing as much as you can. You're looking for direction. This subject is really confusing when people are learning about it. There's an array of information, different types of information on it, where, from religion to meditation to all kinds of things. And so it can be absolutely, utterly overwhelming and confusing. And I really liked the discovery that I realized, because I think that this will help you guys, when I'm realizing that people are walking around with no spiritual goals. And this is really important when you're learning the type of stuff that I teach about. So people are drawn into spirituality or trying to understand the spiritual realm or their spiritual bodies. They're really drawn to it because they want to feel better. This is why people come. This is why people come to my podcast. This is why they find me on some of my stuff. This is why they go to the bookstore. And, I have an aunt that manages a bookstore, and the metaphysical section I found interesting because people are always trying to, keep it under wraps. But it's literally the most trafficked area of the bookstore. She used to work for a very large bookstore before it was shut down, but because it was brick and mortar, yeah. So anyways, the metaphysical section was literally the most trafficked area, and I found that shocking, kind of. I was like, really interesting, because everybody doesn't want to talk about it. It's all hush-hush, right? So people are, they want to feel better. They do. They want to feel better. And so, especially now, as we're coming into more of a spiritual realm, it's becoming a little bit more accepted. They get interested, and, they are seeking for some things. They don't know what they want to achieve necessarily, but they do know that they want to feel better. A lot of people hear from friends or family or on TV or podcast or whatever about this, this enlightened stuff. People want to feel enlightened. They want to have this euphoric feeling that they imagine comes with this enlightenment. And so they're drawn toward it. They also want clarity in their life. A lot of times, especially like I said, as we're moving into the spiritual, the more spiritually based energy, people are wanting more clarity in their life. They're feeling unsatisfied, and they're feeling confused in relationships, work, in just life in general, and they're wanting some clarity, and so they want to make changes and they want to see some changes being made. So this is what I notice tends to draw a lot of people into learning to develop their abilities, or learning to just wanting more knowledge on the subject in general. They're wanting more clarity. They're wanting to feel more enlightened. They're searching for something. They just and it basically comes down to they just want to feel better. They want to feel good again, you know? So the interesting thing about this is, again, this subject is really broad, and it can be very overwhelming. There's so much different information out there. Is people don't realize when they get into learning about spiritual subjects, there has to be a goal or destination. There's actually a system that you can use to integrate this into your life. And it's the same as, like, you don't think about it much, but it's the same as, like, when people want money in their life, there's usually a system to that, right? Like, they find somewhere that's paying money, a job, a freelance job, or whatever that is, something that a task that they can do in exchange for money. And they do that, and then they get money, and then they use that to pay bills. You know, there's an actual system. They know what the system is. But when it comes to spirituality, it's very confusing. And truthfully, I don't think people line out a system very well for them. So I'm going to walk you through some things that you need to do if you're on your spiritual journey, whether you're advanced or not advanced. You really need to be defining your spiritual goals. You need to know where you're going. You need to know what your destination is. You need to know, why is it that you're even doing what you're doing? Why are you gathering knowledge? Why are you developing your abilities? But your number one goal should be, actually, I'm not even going to let you make up this number one goal. I'm just going to tell you what it should be, and you can disregard it if you want to. But your number one goal should absolutely be finding balance with your physical and spiritual bodies in a way that enhances your everyday life. Not in a way that it enhances your Sunday life, or not in a way that it enhances when you remember it life. But your number one goal should be learning to find balance between your spiritual and your physical bodies in a way that enhances your everyday life. I mean, everyday life. When you're doing dinner, when you're going to work, when you're driving in the car. And, you know, what that means is basically, it means your number one goal is to get this knowledge, and you already have your physical knowledge. You know how your physical body works and all of that. You've learned that most of your life. It's learning how to take the knowledge of what your spiritual body does and how that feels, and how that really is supposed to be a part of your tool in your toolbox, and how that's supposed to work with your physical body and your existence in order to help you move forward and advance in a way that works really well for you. So, you know, you have your mind, which is part of your physical body. That's very helpful, sorting through information. You have your ability to pick up things with your hands, and to move and do tasks for, you know, get money and physical things. You know how to work all these physical things. It's really important for you to learn how to find balance with your spiritual body and your physical body in a way that works every day. And so there's a few things that you can do in order to achieve that goal. There's lots of things you can do, but I'm going to try to break down. So how do you find balance? Because that's also probably, like, everybody's like, oh, great, we have a goal, but I have no idea how to do that. So I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. My number one tip, which I know if you've listened to me, I drill this into everybody's head and I talk about it a lot, but do not overcomplicate things. When it comes to spirituality and your spiritual existence, do not overcomplicate things. If you're starting to read or find knowledge on things that are spiritually based, if you're starting to feel confused, that's overcomplicated. Done. Be over it. Go move on to something else. Because I kid you not, I've heard a saying before, if your 6-year-old can't understand it, then it's too overcomplicated. This literally applies to the spiritual realm. When I teach things, I can teach the same stuff I teach to adults to a 6-year-old, and they get it. So the spiritual knowledge that you're retaining should not be so complicated that you really have to sit there and ponder it for a long time. It should make sense to you. You should feel it resonate with you. So if you're getting into this, or if you're advanced and you're just feeling very confused on it, it shouldn't be. You're either one of two things is happening. Either the information you're getting is too overcomplicated, or you're trying to overcomplicate it because it's not as hard as it seems. And so you're going, there's no way it can be that simple. How does this work into this and this and this? So it's either you're getting overcomplicated information, or you're overcomplicating it because it just seems too easy. Because it's a lot easier than you think. Because, see, you already have a lot of the tools in your toolbox. You already have the spiritual body. You have the ability to tap into the spiritual realm. The degree to that ability will vary per person. But because that you are existing at all, because your soul and your spiritual body is what gives you life, the tools are already there. You have the tools. And you weren't gifted with these tools of life and having this connection to the spiritual realm where you needed to have a master's degree or a PhD or something, not really, but you know what I'm saying, to just figure it out. You weren't gifted with this just to have such a complicated understanding of it that you can't even work with it. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That's ludicrous. So you were gifted with it, but it's simpler than you think. And in fact, most people are utilizing it anyways. Most of you, actually all of you who are listening, you're utilizing a lot of your spiritual knowledge anyways. You're just not aware of how you're utilizing it, which I'll get into in a minute. The second thing is you really, really have to be open to unlearning what you've already learned and read so far. To find spiritual and physical balance, you really need to be open to understanding that the spiritual realm, the way that the spiritual body works, the way that everything works on a spiritual level is energetically, and you cannot see energy. And most people are not taught about energy, and they're not taught about how energy moves and how to work with energy. They're only taught how to work with physical stuff. Therefore, a lot of people will say, oh, that can't be done, it's not possible, etc., etc. It's not because it's not possible. It's just because they haven't been taught or have grasped an understanding of how energy in the spiritual realm and spiritual body works. This is not a metaphysical thing. This is an actual scientific thing. And that's what's interesting to me, too, is like I said, when I say don't overcomplicate it, it's not like all those people who tell you, oh, that can't work with this. It's a scientific fact of energy existing, and that energy is movable by thought and different things of that nature. This is actual fact. It's proven. It changes form. It's a fact that it doesn't dissipate. It just changes form. Energy doesn't ever, it's not destroyed ever. It just changes form. Hence our life in our physical body, that brings our physical bodies to life. So again, that's people trying to overcomplicate things. There's actual proof of it. You just haven't been taught it. So you have to be really open to, when you're learning to find balance between your physical body and your spiritual body, you have to learn not to overcomplicate things. You have to learn to be very open to other possibilities that you cannot see, that there's a lot of scientific facts that back it up, and that you have to be willing to unlearn what you've been learned, which is a lot of it's not possible, that's not possible, that doesn't exist, etc., etc. You have to be willing to have a lot more open mind, I guess I would say. That doesn't mean believe everything you hear. Absolutely not. That again would be ridiculous. But anything that resonates with you, that feels good to the core of your being, anything that feels positive, when you're working with your spiritual body and spiritual energy, anything that feels positive, you want to, hold on to that information. Anything that's not feeling right, you want to disregard that information. This is a little bit off the subject, but I did have somebody in the Higher Purpose Learning Group, and they were talking about how they were developing, and a lot of people were very fearful, saying, oh, the more that you develop, all these bad things can happen, and this negativity and that. It just, I was kind of like, wow, people do say that all the time, and they say it out of fear, and this is what I'm talking about. This is where you're going to have to unlearn what you've been taught, because a lot of people will just be very fearful of any spiritual stuff, any energetic things that you're talking about. And even if you want to get further into like spirit communication or anything like that and learn more about the spiritual realm, oh, but there's negative spirits and they're going to do this and they're going to do... It doesn't work like that. I have a million other shows on that, so I'm not going to get into that too much here. But, you have to consider the source of what, do these people have a background in this? And then if it's not resonating with you, consider your own intuition on the matter, which is, even if they do have a good background in it, if it doesn't feel quite right to you, disregard the information. You should always do that. It needs to resonate with you. So you want to be open to unlearning what you've learned. The next thing is you want to start defining your goals. Remember, your number one goal is to find balance, but what is it that you want to achieve on your spiritual journey? What is it? How do you want your life to look? This is where you can get into a little bit more defining goals. Like, not like, I'm just going to use this for example because I get this all the time, but not like, okay, I want a relationship to come in. I want to be 6'5" and have dark hair and blue eyes or whatever. People, that's something that people do readings on all the time. They want love in their life. That's not the type of goals I'm talking about. I'm talking about, from your standpoint, how do you want your life to change for the better? How do you want your life to be enhanced? What is it that you want to change? Do you want to be in a different line of work? Do you want to be in a different location? Do you feel like you need more space? And be very careful when you're defining your goals on, not that I want a 4,000 square foot house if you're feeling confined and you have a lot of family, or you just feel like you want more space because you have things to do in your house, you work from home, whatever. But not, my goal is to get a 4,000 square foot house. No. But your goal might be, I want more space. I want to feel not so cramped. What are your struggles? Those are the changes that you want to address. So even when I do readings and whatnot, when you're defining your goals, you take your struggles and things that are bothering you the most first, and you address those. What is it that I'm struggling with the most? Take the top 3. If you don't have any other way to do this, take 3 things in your life that you'd like to see change or like to see different. And imagine and pretend like in a year that there's been changes with those 3 things. Those should be your goals. Those should be why you're learning to become more in tune with your spiritual body. Because when you become more in tune with your spiritual body and you find balance between your spiritual body and your physical body, what happens is when they work together, this will allow you to achieve these goals and these changes in your life, because you will be guided very strongly by your intuition and by potentially thoughts that pop into your head. You'll be guided by what people call coincidences, universal law-wise. You will be guided by a lot of things. So, and then your physical body will be able to execute these things that you're being guided by with your physical body. You see how that works? Your spiritual body. So your spiritual body will be guiding you. Your spiritual body will bring opportunity into your life. Your physical body will allow you to execute and make those changes. That's how they work together. That's how you find balance. They work as a team. But a lot of times people don't allow the team to work together. They want one to be alpha over the other. And it doesn't matter whether it's a physical body or a spiritual body, because I've seen people do both. I've seen people go, oh, I want to be completely guided by my spiritual body, and and spirit's going to help me do this, and spirit's going to help me do that, and then they fail to execute with the physical part of themselves. And actually, for those of you who are in my Patreon group, my Spirit Chat members, I'm going to be talking about the subject in this particular subject right here that we're talking about with spirit and advanced spirit stuff in my bonus podcast right after this show. So if you are a Patreon member, you're going to be able to get that. If you're not a Spirit Chat member, you can go over to Patreon. It's patreon.com and Jennifer O'Neill, and you can become a member over there, and then you'll have access to it. So I'm going to get into that a little bit more. But so or you can be physically based in your physical body, where you're just executing, but you're not using your spiritual guidance, and then your mind becomes alpha, and that doesn't work either. So that's why you want to have balance. Well, I mean, technically they can work, but you're going to find things a lot easier when you're finding balance between the two. So you want to define what 3 things that you'd like to see changed or you'd like to see different in your life that you feel like would bring you relief or happiness. Things that you have no control or no control over, don't put on here. So don't be like, I want my kid to get a job type of thing. Like I'm worried that they're not going to support themselves like that. We're working on you here and your goals for finding peace. And actually that's a whole nother podcast, because if we're really working on it, another goal to finding peace in the spirituality would be to learn and accept your children's goals, and that they have their own life path and their own journey that they have to go on. And it's kind of just helping where you can. But, like I said, I don't want to get off track there. So take those 3 things and then write how you'd like to see it different in the next year, and how you'd like your life to feel different. So when you're writing those goals down, 1, 2, 3, write down how you'd like to see it different. Write down your issue. Here's what I'm not liking. Write those 3 things down. Then next to it or under it, write, here's what I'd like to see different. And then the third part, I want you to write, here's how I want it to feel different with this particular, it pertains to this subject. Let's just take job, for instance. If you're not loving your job, okay, I'd like to see myself doing this type of work because this is something I love to do. And then I want to feel as if I am just losing track of time while I'm working. I want to feel excited when I come home from work. I want to feel passionate or excited when I get up in the morning. Do you see what I mean? So you got I don't like my job. Here's the type of work I'd like to do, and here's where I'd like to see me working, or what I'd like to see myself involved in, and here's how I'd like to feel when that happens. That's the other. So you want to define your goals. You can do more than 3, but I'm just kind of getting you started. Then the next step to defining your spiritual goals is learning how to tune into your spiritual body. So like I said, this is a system. This is a whole system in place for those of you who are becoming spiritual and wanting to learn. My number 1 goal, what is it, guys? It is to learn how to balance your physical and spiritual bodies in a way that enhances your everyday life. We're walking through the system. The 4th part of this system is learning how to tune into your spiritual body. Now, how can you do that? You need to really have a plan in place for this, but I'm going to give you some ideas of how you can do that, because everybody's different, and I'm not going to force any idea upon you, but here's some things that you can do to learn how to tune into your spiritual body. And I really offer a lot of knowledge and materials in this area, in if you want to do it on your own, totally go do that. One thing to learn how to tune into and feel your spiritual body so that you know when you're resonating with it, you know when your spiritual body is trying to give you guidance, is through meditation. One of the best meditations that I've done, or my favorite meditation, especially for something like this, is my chi meditation. And the amount of emails and the feedback I get on this is incredible. It's been downloaded like over 10,000 times. It's people love it. But this will really get you to become a little more familiar with how your spiritual body feels, because everybody thinks that they understand, and they all think that their physical body feels this and feels that, when really they're feeling a lot of their spiritual body a lot of the time, but they've never been trained to recognize the difference, so they don't understand the difference. So this meditation is a really good one to get you to recognize that feeling. And that chi meditation I've done is actually free. You can go download it on my website, thekeys-to-thespiritworld.com, and you can go check it out, and it's free. You can go download it. You want to learn about energy. The first thing that people think about when they want to become more spiritually advanced or learn to tune into their spiritual bodies is psychic abilities, psychic stuff, gut intuition, things of that nature. It's talking to spirits, but that's just a small portion. There's a huge portion that you're missing if you're just thinking abilities. This energetic world is one of them. That your spiritual body is energy. We are made of energy. How things work as far as your abilities go is based on how energy moves and how you translate energy, how you read energy, how you receive information through energy. And so I'd suggest that you learn everything you can about energy. One of my books that I've written, it's like $2.99, or I don't know, maybe it's $4.99 now. I can't even remember anymore. So I've written a book on this that I highly recommend. It's cheap. It's on Amazon, and it's my Universal Laws book. If you want to do other stuff, I'm sure you can find things on YouTube or whatever. I think Abraham Hicks has a lot of cool stuff on YouTube. If you don't want to spend any money, but learn about energy and how energy works, because it's very important to you. I kid you not, when it comes to developing your own intuition, psychic abilities, it's very important when you're learning to balance your physical and spiritual bodies. And this is one of the things that I think that people overlook the most, is learning, besides not setting any spiritual goals, is not understanding and learning about energy and how basically your abilities are the ability to read energy. So that's another one. The next thing would be understanding your gifts and how abilities work. This thing, as far as spirit communication, as far as how you receive guidance from your guides, your spirit guides, angels, all that sort of thing, that would be the next thing that you would learn how to tune into your spiritual body with. So we've got the three things: meditation, learning how to tune into your spiritual body through meditation. I gave you the chi meditation. I have that free on the Keys to the Spirit World. Learning how to read energy, learning about energy, not necessarily how to read energy. That was a mistake. Learning about energy and how the energetic world works. I've written a really good book on that, or you can go find some stuff online. And the last thing would be basically learning how you read energy, which is understanding your gifts and abilities. For this, you can read anything that resonates with you. Again, remember, when it comes to spiritual stuff, anything that resonates with you, that makes you feel good and positive, that's the stuff you want to hold on to. If it is not feeling good to you, if it makes you feel afraid, if it makes you feel sick to your stomach, if it makes you feel scared, unsure, if it makes you just give you an icky feeling, that information is not meant for you, and it most likely is false information, and that is how you can tell. You should not be afraid as you're developing. You should not be scared. You shouldn't be sick to your stomach. And it will have a positive feeling to it when you're reading it, when you're listening to it, when you're getting this knowledge. It should feel good to you. If it does not feel good to you, disregard the knowledge and do not take it on, because it's bad information. Okay, it will feel good to you. So that's how you learn to turn into your spiritual body. Oh, also, for people who are more advanced, I almost forgot this, I do also do the classes. The psychic ability class, the empath transformation class, which has turned out to be super cool for empaths. And I only open them a few times a year. I am getting ready to open the psychic ability class again. If you want to get on the wait list, you can go to psychicabilityclass.com. If you're on my stuff, you'll get an email anyways when that opens again, if you're interested. And the last thing is to all of this is, if I could really get everybody to understand a couple of things. My main things here would be not to overcomplicate things, and my last thing would be my number 5, which is to understand that you are born with spiritual tools and they are meant to be used daily. They are meant to enhance your life, just like that your fingers are meant to help your life easier, to pick up things, to wash things, your feet, your balance, to move. Your spiritual body is meant to enhance your life daily. It's meant to make things easier. It allows you the ability to read energy, and energy is what the world operates on. Everything's energy. So that's why your number 1 goal should be to learn to balance the two, your physical body and your spiritual bodies, because it is just how we're made. It's how we exist. It's how we're meant to use both. We're meant to be energy readers and to be utilizing our physical bodies together as a team. And so it is meant to be used daily. It's not meant to be used in a seance. It's not meant to be used when you get together with your friends on Saturday. It's not meant to be used only when you remember. It's actually, these tools, your spiritual tools, are in your toolbox all the time. You are constantly using them. How you don't notice is because you haven't learned to turn, if you haven't noticed, not how necessarily. If you're not noticing that you're using your spiritual tools, it's simply because of a few things. You've not learned what your spiritual body feels like. You've not learned how to turn into your spiritual body at will. And you've not learned how energy works, and how energy works in the world, and how its movement it works with all things. And so, because you're utilizing it every day, I promise. It doesn't matter if you just picked up this podcast and you've never heard of energy a day in your life and you have no idea who I am. You're utilizing it. It's happening. So you're just missing some of the knowledge of how it's happening. And then what happens when you gain that knowledge is you can be more directive in your spiritual goals, right? You can define your spiritual goals better, and you can give this part of your body that's already just working without your knowledge, just like your heart beats without you knowing, your liver works without your knowing, all of these things internally within your body work without you knowing. Your spiritual body is doing the same thing. It's just really nice if we can give our spiritual bodies some direction and some spiritual goals, and learn how to work with that and be more conscientious and aware of how that enhances our life. Because if we do that, our spiritual body has another bonus asset of being able to work with bringing things into your life in a different manner than you probably know. So, your spiritual body is very in tune with your happiness and your health and that sort of thing. It's very in tune with helping you to achieve those goals. Your physical body then does different work. See, everybody thinks it's different. They think it's their physical body is in control of their happiness, but it's actually your spiritual body. So, that being said, I hope that this is helpful in you learning how to define your spiritual goals. And hopefully you sit down and remember the number one goal, finding balance. And hopefully as I walk through these things, you can learn how to remember to sit down, write down about 3 goals, start lining them out of what you'd want to see, how you want to see this enhance your life, your gifts, and this knowledge. As you're sponging up the knowledge, you want a goal with sponging up this knowledge. You want a place to go. So until next time, I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely stop over mykeys2spiritworld.com, pick up that meditation. And for those of you who want to learn more on the subject, you can stop over mypatreon.com, and that's where you can become a Spirit Chat member. So have a wonderful day. Aloha.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. People always say it's good to unwind, but that's easier said than done. The exception, Chumba Casino. They actually make it easier done than said, or at least the same. Chumba Casino is an online social casino with hundreds of casino-style games like slots and blackjack. Play for fun. Play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Sign up now and collect your free welcome bonus at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
Black Friday is coming, and for the adults in your life who love the coolest toys, well, there's something for them this year too. Bartesian is the premier craft cocktail maker that automatically makes more than 60 seasonal and classic cocktails, each in under 30 seconds at the push of a button. And right now, Bartesian is having a huge site-wide sale. You can get $100 off any cocktail maker or cocktail maker bundle when you spend $400 or more. So, if the cocktail lover in your life has been good this year, or the right kind of bad, get them Bartesian. At the push of a button, make bar-quality cosmopolitans, martinis, Manhattans, and more. All in just 30 seconds. All for $100 off. Amazing toys aren't just for kids. Get $100 off a cocktail maker when you spend $400 through Cyber Monday. Visit bartesian.com/cocktail. That's BARTESIAN.com/cocktail.